Hi, today I'd like to talk about creative strategy and creative briefs. Now, if you are interested in advertising because you're great at writing copy, then this is a good conversation for you. So definitely pay attention if you want to get into the art of copywriting and you want to actually create beautiful visual um, advertising for your consumer. So let's get started. Creative strategy and creative briefing. Okay, so I'm going to turn this video off as we keep going so you can focus on this page. All right. So what do you see here? You see your brain, okay? At least something that looks like a brain, okay? So what I wanted to say here was any kind of ad that you create should be a combination of both, hard sell and soft sell, okay? Both strategy and logic, as well as creativity and imagination, both verbal and visual, okay? So our human brain clearly, has these interconnected brains, right and left. And what they say is the left side of your brain specializes in verbal and language understanding, and the right side of your brain is more visual and mathematical. Okay, so when you're trying to sort of produce an ad, you want to make sure that you have a balance between logic and imagination, okay, between um, practical and emotional. Okay, so let's look at this slide one more time. And, on the top, you're seeing the word consumer response. So what we have to remember is when we create an ad, of course, we're writing the ad for the consumer. Okay, so when now put yourself in the shoes of a consumer, right? When we make purchases, we make them for many reasons, right? Not just logical reasons, but also emotional reasons. So when you like an ad or you dislike an ad, it's kind of weird because one side of your brain is saying something else, the other side of your brain is telling you something else, right? So there's emotion, and there's also your brain trying to convince you if something is worth buying or not. Okay. If there's too much logic in the ad, it's going to become boring and factual. If there's too much emotion, then you feel like, well, it's kind of lacking substance, right? So the goal is let's make sure that we can appeal to both sides of that consumer brain. All right. So what I want to do now that we've talked about this is get into this conversation, a creative briefing. Okay, so if you work in an ad agency, this is obviously something you're going to hear quite a bit. So let's talk about what a creative briefing is. Okay, so it is actually a meeting. It's a meeting where account planners talk about the advertising problem, which is like, they talk about the nature of uh, the problem, the issue that they're trying to solve, and they have this conversation with the creative team members. And then they start to suggest ways of solving this problem. Okay, so it is a meeting, a creative briefing is a meeting, and this is kind of the first time that the brainstorming begins. And we have like many, 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 many briefings before we are really able to solve the problem. Okay, so the next word I'd like you to now know is this word, brief. Okay, so a creative briefing is is a meeting, but a creative brief is a document. Okay, and it is something that summarizes the content of that meeting, or sometimes many meetings put together, come up with one document, and that document is what we called a creative brief. Okay, so then let's talk a little bit about what this briefing looks like. Okay, so people come together, account planners and creative folks, and then you may have some of the other folks who talk to clients also. The client is never in these meetings. This is an agency thing. It happens in the agency with a group of people that are working on a specific product or a specific client, right? They come together and then they meet several times and they're trying to figure out, is this, how do we solve this problem? Okay, is this the right way to go? And then ideas keep sort of evolving and changing, and over time they come up with something really cool. Okay, so why do we even have these creative briefings, and why do we even need a creative brief? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Okay, so what's the point of this brief? Now, it's an extremely important document, and let's take it seriously because your fundamentals, you need to get them right before you can say that you're ready for an ad agency. You need to have your fundamentals right. So, why do we have a creative brief, and why is it so important to have it? Okay, so let's look at this diagram. Okay, you probably are seeing a funnel here, right? The yellow funnel thing, do you see that? Okay, and the black little things that you see on the top of the funnel, do you know what those are? They're right here. See the little black ones? So these are little ideas, right? And there are so many different ideas. Eventually, all of those ideas are funneled. So you get rid of the noise, you get rid of the ideas that you don't want. And the one real best idea that you come up with is what goes through this particular funnel. Okay, so the main task of a creative brief is to inspire the creative team and to inform them of what the client needs. Of course, you've already done a lot of research as a planner to then funnel down that information to one big idea. Okay, so you're reducing all that information that has been gathered from the client, from all the consumer research, from all the other sources, and you funnel it down to a single potent idea. And I would say from that idea, you then can create some great advertising. You get the sense of possibilities, right? And then great advertising. But you do need to synthesize, right? You don't want an expansive, creative brief. You need a very funneled down version. Okay. And it's extremely important to have a single idea, a single strategy. Okay, because if you have too much, then it's a real problem for the creative team to come up with great ads. Okay, so this is something that's extremely important, and you will be creating your own creative briefs in this class, and I will give you a template that can help you create that particular brief. But it's super important to not put in everything that you know or you've researched for a specific product. It's super important to funnel it down to a single idea and strategy. And that is what I'm hoping we learn in this class. Okay, so this is the template. You might want to write it down because you're going to explore this and you're going to use it for several projects that you will do in this class. Okay, so let's quickly go over this. The first one there says company or product overview. Okay, so this is just some very basic, again, funneled down, important background information on the company and on the specific target product. Okay, so you really want to ask yourself here, are there any market trends, any information that I need to know? And you want to research that before you write this particular section. Okay, the next section in there is competitors. Okay, so you have to look at both direct and indirect competitors for a product. So let's say you say, Domino's, okay? So Domino's, the direct competitors would be Pizza Hut perhaps, right? But they have other indirect competitors. Let's say you compare it with fast food, then you would say, well, McDonald's maybe, you may do McDonald's instead of a Domino Pizza, right? So that is still an indirect competitor right there. Okay, the third one there is the objectives of the ad. Okay, so of course, you have to create one brief for a specific product, right? So it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be making 20 ads for Domino's for that campaign, and some of it could be print, and some of it could be social media, and some of it could be TV ads. You just need one template, right, for that product, for that specific campaign, which has a specific idea. Okay. So now, when we talk about the objective, you want to ask yourself, well, what is the goal of this ad campaign? What are you trying to do? Is it for market expansion? Is it because you're trying to change the image of the specific brand? And you have to figure out what your expectations are. What would you like the audience to feel with this particular ad, right? What do you want the audience to do? So narrow it down. I'm hoping for one objective, not five. It cannot be, I'm going to grow my audience and I'm also going to do brand awareness. It never works like that. So you want to really focus on one objective, brand awareness, and that's it. Okay, let's focus on that. And then kind of dig deeper in there. Okay, the next one in there is target media. So this particular section will address where you want that ad to show up. Okay, where would you want to place your creative ad? And you want to be specific there, specific magazines, TV channels, whatever it is, right? What are the different media that you would like to place the specific ad in, and be very deliberate, because you want to make sure that the audience that you choose for your brand watches that media, accesses that media. Okay, the next one is target audience. Okay, so simple question. Who are we talking to? Give me the demographic information, where they live, their age, their sex, their income, whatever is relevant there. Okay, visualize the person. Really, the way to do this is close your eyes, visualize this person, describe the person in your head or on paper somewhere else, in as much detail as possible. Who are these people? Where do they live? What is their lifestyle? How do they communicate with each other? How do we communicate with them? What else do we need to know about them? Okay, so this stuff is super important to know, right? Who they are, demographic, psychographic. All right, the next one in there, focus, proposition, promise, or benefit. Okay, so this particular section will ask this question: what's the most important thing to say? What is the unique selling proposition of this particular brand? What is the central value of this product? Okay, what is the most unique thing about this brand that you want to highlight? Okay, what is that one single persuasive statement that you visualize? Okay, so that is that particular section right there: focus, proposition, or benefit. Okay, the next one in there is tone of voice. So what kind of tone of voice do you think your ad should deliver? All right, how do you want your audience to feel about your message? Right, and that's that. Okay, and the last one in there is inclusion and exclusion. This got nothing to do with diversity, people. Okay, so this particular section is saying, what do you not want to talk about in your ads? Or what do you absolutely want to include in the ad? And you know why you're doing that? Because in most cases, the account planner will create this creative brief, and then they will hand it over to the creative team, who will actually come up with the ad, with the text and with the visual and all of the stuff. Okay, so this is something that you, the account planner, will create to then hand it over to the creative team. So be absolutely clear in terms of your vision, be absolutely clear in terms of your direction, in which you would like that creative team to go. And that's why you mentioned very clearly, don't talk about this, or this is the tone of voice we're looking for, or we're focused on a very specific audience, right? So, or very specific objective, one objective of the ad, right? Okay, so that is what we're talking about. That's the whole point of a creative brief. What is it not? Okay, remember we talked about the funnel, okay? This is not a laundry list of all the research you've done to show how much research you've done. Nobody cares, okay? This is a one-page document with all of those sections in it, all right? So you've done a lot of research, but you need to funnel it down to what matters, okay? And this is not going to the client. This is your research as an account planner. That's what you do. So don't praise the product. Be truthful in terms of what the product can do or what the consumer thinks about that specific product. And the only reason why we write a brief is because we can help and inspire the creative team, okay, so that we have really great products, so that we have really great ads. Okay, so that is sort of the point of a brief. And so something you want to remember, that what it is an internal ad that influences our creative team. Our brief has to be creative, okay? Even though you're an account planner, your focus is research and learning and being connected with your consumer. Your brief has to be creative. You need to suggest solution to the problem, right? You need to present information in an interesting way, and you need to write it in such a way that you can really inspire the creative team. Okay? So just something very important to remember and extremely important to pay attention to. Now, in this class, you will be doing two things. You will obviously be writing your creative brief because you would have your account planner hat on. And then you will take that hat out and then you will put on your creative hat on, okay? You will be a part of that copywriting visual art department because we have to learn it both, right? You have to learn both. But ideally in an ad agency, these are two different roles, okay? So I want to end this by saying the right questions lead us to more thinking and eventually some answers, okay? So again, this is something John Steele says, and I love his work, and so I often quote him. And so he, ask the right questions as you do your consumer research, as you do your product research, okay? And then that's going to get you to think, and eventually you will come up with some fantastic answers. And that's what you're going to put in your creative brief. And simplicity is your genius. So please try to be as simple as possible as you learn to write your creative briefs. Okay, so what I'd like to do is take you through all of these questions, and I'm going to do that in the next video. Okay, so we'll start here, but the conversation was, let's ask the right questions. When we ask the right questions, we will get some good answers. And those answers are what will help you write the best creative brief. Okay, cool. Let's get started with part 2 right after this.